Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to our live webinar today that is transitioning to OT security. We will be discussing about the key concepts and what are the career opportunities. This webinar brought to you by InfosecTrain. So we are all excited. Have you, all of you, to join us today? That we are exploring the this fascinating and rapidly growing world of OT security. Yeah, and I will walk you through the fundamentals of OT security, and then including why OT security is so important in today's world, and also we will also discuss about the current state of the job market and highlight the exciting career opportunities for the OT security. Let's look at the agenda for today's meeting. That what we will be discussing in detail. So first, we will talk about the overview of OT security. We will discuss the key concepts and the challenges in the field of operational technology security, and then we will go through. We will examine that the case study of Triton malicious malware attack that has happened, and then the best practices for the successful implementation of your OT security in real world situations, and then we will explore what are the career opportunities in OT security. We will learn about various job roles and what are the responsibilities that in OT security domain. So now, so before jumping in, right, we dive into the first topic, that is overview of OT security. Let me share a bit about my experience, about myself. My name is Manjunath Hiregange. Basically, I started my career with industrial automation as an industrial automation engineer. The way back in 2008, after I got out of college, through campus interview, I got selected to a company called Yokogawa. They do manufacture all these DCS, PLCs, SCADA. They do supply a lot of automation systems. Then I moved to ABB, then GE. Now currently I'm working as a senior OT security consultant for a company called Defentos BV. It's a Netherlands-based startup. It's basically a consulting service company where we provide the assessments, various risk assessment, gap assessment, vulnerability assessments, and we do some kind of strategy and advisory services, some OT security training as well. And I hold 62443 cybersecurity expert badge from International Society of Automation. Our first topic for today's webinar is the key concepts and the challenges. As you can see, so I have covered the basic five main concepts, the key concepts. There are other various concepts are available, but by considering the the different audience background, so then I thought, okay, maybe let me stick to this so that you are aware. My main idea here is to cover the basics of OT and its security, right? So first, we will go through the industrial control system, and then the Purdue model and the compliance standards. What are the various standards are available, and how to mitigate the risk, and then finally we will end up with the incident response. And also, I will touch upon a little bit about digital forensics. So yeah, these are the five things which I will be covering today. So before jumping into learning about industrial control systems, you might be wondering, why this OT security is so important, and how does it affect our daily lives. So let us take an example of OT system around us. It plays a very critical role for the smoother operation, for the essential services which we rely on our everyday life, right? So let us say, you think of when you charge your phone, right? You are utilizing the electrical supply, so that is being generated and transmitted and distributed by OT systems in power plants. Now, water and wastewater management. So when you turn on the tap, or when you take the shower, OT systems in water treatment plant. ensure that the water is clean and safe, and it is distributed basically. So when every time you stop at the traffic light, or you cross an intersection, you are interacting with OT systems that controls and coordinate with the traffic signals for both smooth and safe transportation. And then, when you use a train, subway, or tram, the OT systems manage signaling and scheduling to ensure, the timely arrival of your, arrivals or departures. Even the passenger safety, basically. And then we consider the manufacturing, we'll consider the gas stations, or the petrol stations. When you fill up your vehicle at these stations, the fuel has been processed, right? These fuels are distributed by the OT systems in oil refineries, and pipelines that manage your extraction and the refining, and then transportation of all these oil and gas resources. And when it comes to building automation, let us consider the temperature control in your room, or even your office, and shopping mall, for example. These are all relies on the OT system, like it manages heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. In short, we call it as HVAC systems, that you can see in many of the OT environment. So these all, as you can see, all these OT systems are an integral part of our daily lives. So their seamless operation has a direct impact on our comfort, basically, and safety and well-being. So ensuring the securing this OT environment is very critical for it's very important for us. And as a OT security professional, it is our responsibility to protect the system from cyber attacks and even the potential threats. Right? There are various threats that also we'll go through. Yeah, so the reason why I have touched upon this, so that you have better understanding of what OT exactly is. Instead of taking you to the standard definition of OT, first I want you to understand where OT system being implemented or being used. So that was my whole idea here. Now, let us jump into our first topic, that industrial control system or OT systems. And now already we have seen some of the applications where OT being, OT system in our daily lives. Let's, understand how, what is industrial control system, and explore how they function, basically. The OT is nothing but there are various hardwares and software and some communication technologies. It's a collection, and it manages and automate the physical process. So the physical process, in the sense like manufacturing in the power generation plant, it will manage the physical process of distributing the power, generating the power, and even in water treatment plants. So let's take a closer look at the some of the components of OT ICS systems. So this diagram I have taken from ISA. So these are the various physical processes like sensors, actuators, some of the single loop controllers. And some communication devices like PLC, DCS, and then you have the HMIs, and then MES and ERP. So now, for the OT systems, what we have seen is, the sensor senses the data, and the controller will process. It's based on the input received from the sensor. It will do some intelligence work, and then it will open or close the valve depending on the process involved. Right? This is how the basic idea of your OT systems. And to communicate between these devices, we have some industrial communication protocols like Modbus, DNP3, OPC-UA. We will not go in depth of this, but definitely, these are some of the important industrial network protocols that you need to understand how they work. So even we cannot cover entire network protocols in one webinar. Maybe we have to have multiple webinars for this. Anyways, so this is the basic idea of this is called Purdue model. What I have shown you here, level 0, 1, 2, 3. But I will touch upon that in the coming slides. And this is what just to give you an understanding. So this Let's take a look at the detailed. This is the basic operation of your typical OT systems. It includes various control process. The reason why I have included this I have taken from niche standard. This will give you an overview of your OT system, what exactly it is, right? So there is a sensor. It is called the control variables, like you have pressure, you have temperature. We have considered in the HVAC, where it senses the temperature data and then it process and it will control the air conditioning of your entire building. Let us take one such example where it senses the data and the controller is the intelligent device, which based on the industrial environment, there will be so many applications running inside the controller. It's basically an embedded device, and then it will go to the actuator for the particular action to like opening the wall or closing the wall. And meantime, there is a remote diagnostic and maintenance application where it always detects for errors, like if something goes wrong in the process. So then it will give you an error message, say that okay, it is out of control, or it is some disturbance happening in the process. And there is a HMI station where you can control. For example, you want to set, right, you want to set some temperature to certain limits, some set points like 24 degrees centigrade. Then you can likewise, I'm just giving a simple example, but in real world, there will be a lot of things will be happening in, especially in the process sector. So in these HMI workstations, you can do multiple things. You can view what is happening in the real world, where the flow is going, where the temperature is increasing, and what is the current level of your tank. Those things you can review, and you can modify it. So that's the whole idea of your HMI stations. So this picture, it is AI generated basically. So I have taken just to give you an example of, this is a process plant. This is how it looks like, and there will be a operation center, the control center, where everything will be controlled through the center and this physical process. And I think many of you are from IT background or OT background, or you are a commissioning engineer. You might have visited the plant. So this is just to give you an overview of this process plant, right? So now, very important, the architecture, that is the this is the popular model actually used in our OT domain, that is Purdue model. It is like a blueprint of your OT environment. It provides your clear and organized way to the representing of different layers of all the equipments and all the communication, and what are the each and every equipment resides in your OT environment. So, before jumping into this, I just would like to give you a brief history about this Purdy model. Initially, this was developed in the 90s. Actually, it was called enterprise architecture for the manufacturing industry. The idea was, the original purpose was to help standardize and streamline this manufacturing process. Basically, it was not, keep security in mind initially, because the initial plan was to optimize the efficiency of the operations, basically. But over the years, this Purdue model has evolved and adapting to the changing technologies. Now we are seeing, the rapid growth of digital transformation, Industry 4.0, and Purdue model also. Some people say that the Purdue model has gone. It is no. I do not agree completely. Yes, but if you look at the IIoT framework or Industry 4.0 framework, they have adopted this Purdue model. Based on that, they have developed on top of it. Yeah, it's a continuous process, basically. As you can see, this Purdue model has multiple levels, like level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3, and DMC layer, and level 4. And comparatively, if you look at on the right side, these are the components which also we can call this as cyber physical, where above DMZ, these are all the corporate network that is where your IT expertise will come into picture. On below DMZ, these are all specific to OT. So we can say that this is cyber and that this is a physical world. or sometimes we often hear about IT OT integration, right? So this is IT and this is the OT. So this is where integration happens. And in the DMZ layer, which is very important, vital aspects of our OT domain. So now let us look at example of level zero. It says that process IO device. Already we understood that, like we have seen a lot of big machines equipment. What I have shown you, those are comes under the level zero. And level one, it's called sensing and controlling device. That is a controller, right? Like safety instrumented systems and your DCS, PLCs, everything under level one. Yeah. So and level two, which talks about your HMIs, where the operator views and some SCADA systems. And then comes the level three, where your all the site manufacturing work, logistics, the production scheduling and other factory-wide operations, which happens at level three. And comes the DMZ layer. This is where you will have all the application servers will be running, and the workstation and the patch management, where you want to update the OS, right? Or update your firmware to the controller. Everything happens. There will be some application servers residing in this section, and then it will push the data through this firewall and gateways to the bottom of your body model. And always business wants to see what is happening inside the OT environment, and some data will be pushed to the IT. Anyways, if you are in OT security, you have to make sure that this Purdue model is very important. And sometimes in OT we call this as the system architecture. If you go and work as an end user, then you will understand various systems. Like there will be multiple controllers, multiple there will be many such architectures available, right? So if you are in if you want to jump into the OT security, I strongly recommend that you should understand this Purdue model. And with this model, really you can understand the entire OT systems, I can say that, because it covers what is required. For example, you have to understand the OT terminologies. That is where this level 0, level 1, level 2 will help you. And then how to segregate these networks, that is that we call it as network segmentation. And then what is the role of individual control systems, like in safeties, why it is required, and DCS, what is the role of DCS, and then how we can secure this, and what are the threats for these industrial control systems, and then what is the function of that firewall. Anyways, if you are working in IT, then you definitely the functionality of firewall. But the same thing is being deployed in OT domain as well. But only thing is what kind of traffic flows in from IT to OT. So those things you have to understand basically. And then the enterprise zone, definitely antivirus software and then patch management server, everything will be pushed to through DMC. So here, the important thing is you have to understand. So once a webinar, is done, and you can just go through, online, and you will understand this Purdue model easily. Security model of that Purdue model. And then let us understand, why do we need this securing, why do we need to secure these OT systems? There are various things involved in the OT environment, like safety, reliability, availability, and there will be an economic impact, and there will be IP data protection, regulatory compliance, and trust and reputation. So firstly, let us take the example of safety. What happens is, for any OT environment, safety is paramount. Always we have to remember, safety, reliability, and availability is the key for when we compare to IT, where your confidentiality is important in the IT domain. But in OT domain, we always think of a safety and availability, because to for OT system to work, always there should be a system available all the time. Otherwise, the production loss or halt of production, everything. And sometimes, what could go wrong. Let us, anyways, in the next slide, I will be covering up the Triton attack. Then you will understand about the safety aspects of it, right? Let us say, securing this OT systems. the it safeguard the public also and environment as well, and the potential hazards from the cyber attacks or sometimes system failure. Then comes the we need to secure the OT system because of its availability, because availability is very important in to operate efficiently. What happens if something goes wrong because of the cyber attack or some threats? So definitely there will be a downtime, and then the production losses. There will be a huge impact on the financial aspects of the company. Then comes the economic impact, as I already explained, that there will be a damage to the equipment and loss of production, and there will be a lot of economic impact on the OT domain. And then the IP and intellectual property and data protection are also crucial, because many there will be some formula being used, and if someone took care of because of the competition, company failings, all these financial losses, right? And these valuable information for trade secrets or some sensitive data, these are also very important. And then regulatory compliance, because many government has created so many regulations that each and every end user has to follow now. So they must adhere to this industry specific laws and regulations. That's why securing this OT also comes into picture. Finally, obviously, trust and reputation, because this OT, securing OT system, it not only maintains the customer or partner with confidence, but the also the company's reputation in the market. Let us say let us say, take one example. Last week, I think last month, couple of months back, there was an attack. Ransomware attacks are happening on the OT systems, right? Even though it was not directly intended for the OT system, but definitely there was a lack of securing OT systems were in place. So we have to understand all this. So that's why understanding these key reasons why we need to secure OT systems also essential for everybody who are involving in our OT security domain. So now let us understand what are the threats basically. Threats to these are some of the threats to OT systems, like malware, viruses, phishing attacks, and then insider threats, physical and supply chain attacks, advanced persistence, ransomware attacks. Let us take one example. Okay, so you might have heard of Stuxnet, right? So it is a stealthy, computer worm. It was targeting, infecting the industrial control systems to, damage the nuclear facility in Iran. And this, real life example demonstrate that, what are the, the potential destructive power of this malwares, viruses on OT systems. So we have to be very careful about these threats. And also about phishing attack. For example, let's imagine some innocent looking email that turns out to be a carefully crafted trap. I can say it is a trap. And these phishing attacks use deceptive emails to trick employees into revealing sensitive information, or just like granting access to the critical systems. So then, so the threat can be as simple as that, like it's a fake email, but the consequence can be serious. So we have to understand that. And then the insider threat. So sometimes the dangers lurks in the like within the organization, or maybe employees, contractors, or third party vendors who access to the system, OT systems. They have legitimate access, so they can misuse their access. So maybe they can cause harm either intentionally or unintentionally. But still, we have to be very careful with the insider threats. And then the nowadays we are hearing about ransom attacks. And also there is a a ransomware as a service that is also a biggest threat to our OT systems, and they will just encrypt the data and then they will ask for the ransom. So until unless you give the paid the ransom, and then they will decrypt it. Always, that's why all these parts are very important. And also we have seen that APT is like a stream of masterminds, hackers, secretly coming inside your OT systems and collecting the data from long years, and one day they will attack it. So we have to be very careful with APTs by continuously monitoring for the threats, and also update on the vulnerability side. So we have to be very careful on the APD side, because we have seen in the past, recent past, that the how you can see the cyber threat report by many vendors nowadays mentioning about the ransomware APTs very often. And one more thing is, one important is physical and supply chain attacks, because now the vendors are providing all these DCS controllers, PLCs, and all that. And these supply chain attacks, even sometimes back in 2018, there was an incident. I think I remember. So some of the transmitters, software got altered, and there was they could find some malicious software inside it. So the whole idea was to disrupt the operations by giving the the malicious content through these supply chain attacks. So that's why, if you look at the the government initiatives, so all these threats are being considered as a threat to the OT systems. So this, what we understand this, so we have to we should not ignore, right? So sometimes I do understand that some these threats are not directly impacted the OT systems. So if you take out all the attack database on the OT systems, there are not much of the OT system, but we cannot ignore, right? Because as we move on to the industrial, digital transformation, Industry 4.0, IIoT, which is directly connected to the internet, and also the attack surface has increased, right? So now more than ever, so now the attackers have the gain into the OT domain easily because of the easy internet connections. So we have to be very careful in that. Now let us try to understand with one case study, that is Triton, malware attack. So yeah, just a minute. So as you can see here, see this in 2017, this a highly sophisticated, Triton, this malicious software attack took place, and it was targeting the the petrochemical plant in Saudi Arabia. So they used, basically the attacker used the advanced malicious software called Triton, and it was specifically targeting to disrupt the SIS controller, that is safety instrumented system. As I have explained earlier, for any plant, for any OT environment, you know that Bhopal accident, there was no safety instrumented system, and then government took initiative, and safety was there from long time for any plants. So this Triton, it gave us the started thinking that initially there was a myth that the attackers don't understand the OT, but that's not true, because this incident clearly it's visible that attackers are they are very bold. They can understand OT system better than OT system engineers, because they created a specific malware to target the SIS systems. So to do that, the someone should understand the safety functionality of it, and they have to undergo a lot of procedures. So that's why we cannot ignore this. So basically, luckily, what has happened is it was not simply just to destroy data or shut down the plant. It was meant to sabotage the operations and trigger an explosion. So that's why I would say that someone has quoted that this is the world's most murderous malware, right? Because luckily the incident did not take place because there was a bug in the malware. they, instead of doing some damage because of the bug, it did not create havoc in the SIS systems. Luckily, the plant got in the safer mode. So yeah, and let us try to understand on the left side where how the let us try to understand how it has happened. So initially, the attacker first gained, the foothold in the plant's corporate network by likely through phishing attacks. Someone has sent a phishing email and someone has clicked, and they exploited that vulnerabilities. Always, the human, we have that mindset that okay, whatever mail comes, and then that's why awareness is very important. And then they once they inside they understood the what are the vulnerabilities inside this DMZ layer and the OT system. Slowly they started collecting, gathering information, because once they inside, because this took place 6 months back or 1 year back, they collected all the information through phishing attacks. And then once they gathered all the information because of the configured firewall, then they infected the malicious software on this SIS engineering workstation. So basically, what has happened is this was custom built. Basically, the Triton malicious software was custom built. They tried to manipulate the specific safety system used in the facility. So their plan was to reprogram the SIS to create an unsafe condition in the plant. So definitely, if something would have happened, it could have led to the catastrophic consequences. You know, but luckily, what has happened is error in the bug in the malicious code that triggered a safety shutdown. So that they could reveal the attack and prevent further disaster. So this, these detailed steps, what I have explained here, showcase that the level of planning and persistence and the skills involved in this executing this sophisticated attack on critical infrastructure, that we have to be very careful, and also always we have to think like a hacker, and also we have to take some preventive measures, also create an awareness on the you know OT systems. Some of the best practices now we have seen, what has happened is like why OT security is important, we have learned. And then what are the threats, like from a threat can come from various sources, right? And then we took a example of Triton, which was targeting on the safety systems. Now let us try to understand how we can mitigate those risks, or how we can protect the OT systems. These are some of the best practices. You have to conduct regular risk assessments. So, in the risk assessment, what you will do exactly? First, you will identify the risk. We have to identify the risk. Before that, you have to identify the assets. So, some many a times, if you go to any plant, uh, first customer will say that I have an idea that I don't have the full list of assets on my database, like asset visibility. This is where your OT security solution vendors are always marketing themselves that we have a solution that we can take care of the OT, the asset visibility, everything. And then you take you take one asset as a identified asset, and then you identify what are the vulnerabilities resides in the that particular asset. For example, let us take one example, that maybe some controller, many times the national vulnerability database has all the listed down of vulnerabilities. So you go there and check, okay, what are the vulnerabilities I have for this particular asset. And then once you have identified the vulnerabilities, and then what are the risks involved in this. For example, if some attackers exploit this vulnerability, what could go wrong, right? What could go wrong, and what could be the consequences? Then you will come up with the risk rating for each, what is the economic impact, what is the safety impact. And then you will look into the what are the existing countermeasures that you have already in place, which but you have not done before. Once you do that, and then you will your risk rating will come down. And then what recommendation you will give. So basically, by doing this, I have given one example. But usually, what I mean to say is the conducting regular risk assessment is to identify what are the risk of the current threats or risk being involved in the my day-to-day operations. Then how I can mitigate risk cannot be eliminated completely, but it can be reduced to certain extent. And yeah, then once you conduct the risk assessment, you recommend some solution and then implement layered security controls. As we have seen the Purdue model, right? Like firewalls, and there are some gateways, and then firewall access controls. Many times we have seen ideas, not in many plants, because these OT systems. We have to remember one thing. So many plants are running with the legacy system. That means it has a long, lifespan. So uh, so these are some of the challenges that we face when we are in, working with OT systems. And then you have, network segmentation, as I've explained. DCS should fit in separate zone, and then your SI safety system should be in different zone. So this is called, defense in depth strategy. It is a multiple layers of security protocols, like physical. It can include the physical security, and then network security, and then application security. So these are all, it can help minimizing your likelihood of an impact and the overall risk. And then develop and enforce security policies. So what do you mean by this? Basically, we have seen that many times the policies, when it comes to corporate policies, always they tell that all IT security policies. With respect to OT, nowadays it is changing, but in general, I'm telling that there is no particular policy for OT security alone. So we have to enforce those policies, like password complexity, patch management, acceptable use of company devices and systems, right? So we have to be very careful on this, while developing security policies and procedures, and always monitor and respond to threats. I think many plants have nowadays, security operations center working 24 by 7, specifically for IT. But now slowly the OT devices are, being incorporated, and there are many OT security solution vendors are available in the market. There will be, there are various ways to collect the threat intel, and then gather the information. There will be, incident response planning in place for to respond to the threats, and test and update security controls. Because patch management for the OT is always a challenge, because you cannot, unlike IT. Tomorrow I want to update my laptop with Microsoft Windows. Then I will update straight away, because nothing will happen. Uh, at the max, maybe some services will drop down. But in OT, when we talk, we cannot take a risk, because always availability is the key. Let us say when you are updating the patches, something goes wrong, then it will halt your production, and one day's production loss could, maybe $1,000. Means, I mean, I'm talking in millions of dollars. So that's why always availability is the key, and also safety, right? Safety also is one of the important parameter that always remember. Safety, reliability, and availability is very, utmost importance. So these are some of the uh, best practices that you can follow. And not only this, but there are other best practices as well. But I thought, okay, maybe let us stick to this for this webinar. And then, what are the unique challenges that we are facing in OT environment? So these are some of the unique challenges that we need to address as a, by the industry, basically. So erosion of network architecture, as we have seen, right, in the Purdue model, there is a network architecture. Initially, it was called as air gapped. That means, it was air gapped from IT network. It was, all the OT components are running in a separate solid environment, and it was away from internet. But we cannot exclude nowadays, because of the digital transformation, IIoT, and system can be controlled and monitored remotely. Not only IIoT, because now initially, all the machines and everything were not connected to internet, but nowadays, because of the operational efficiency, it is being connected to IT through DMZ layer. But and to take full advantage of all these modern technologies, commercially off-shelf COTS components. We have to take care of the the latest softwares technologies. That means the term called air gap are decreasing rapidly in the OT systems, right? And so the moment you say it is connected to internet, it is the attack surface has increased. And also keep in mind that many OT systems has legacy systems, and legacy system it has these were not designed security in mind when they were built, right? And it may not support the modern communication protocols or security protocols for the updates. So that is where I have come to the second point, that the pervasive legacy systems, it has a long lifespan, and there are running with the outdated systems, outdated operating systems. And as per the report, this was way I think in 2021 or so, and there was a on the a report, 70%, 71% of these networks are outdated operating. So you can imagine in in entire world, you can see there are many plants which are running with legacy systems. And can you imagine 71% is a huge number, right? And this represents what? High risk of vulnerabilities, right? High risk of vulnerabilities. And this these many OT legacy systems are have still has insecure passwords or default password that we can easily find out from the instruction manuals or on the web. So this will also help the attackers basically, right? And then the differing priorities. So always the IT and OT has different priorities and goals, right? And this fundamental difference, create a unique challenges in OT environment. For example, as I said earlier, IT may want to install the patches to address some vulnerability, but suddenly in OT you cannot do because of the disruption or for the critical operations during the installation process. And definitely OT focus more on the availability and the safety, and they want safe, reliable and continuous operations of the physical process and equipment basically. And then device insecurity, what do you mean by this? These OT devices are often embedded with firmware or software that may contain vulnerabilities, right? Or backdoor that can be exploited. You can see, you can go to National Vulnerability Database. Still, many industrial control systems not secure by design. So now, what I am seeing is based on my experience from past couple of years, they have taken seriously because of the some regulations from the government side as well. They lack, many OT device lack basic security features. For example, I have seen industrial control system which does not have antivirus protection, right? And also some misconfiguration on the firewalls or yeah. And based on one of the report that 66% of the devices or networks are not updated with the latest antivirus updates, right? So this makes it easy for the attackers uh, to exploit these vulnerabilities. And then insecure operational protocols. And see, OT system always use various protocols to communicate with each other and with external device. And some of these protocols, are proprietary and specific to certain industries or vendors. And many of these protocols do not use, they are insecure by design or by implementation, you can say. They do not provide any kind of encryption, authentication, or even integrity checks for the data being transmitted. And this makes it easy for the attackers to intercept, modify or inject any malicious content or command data into your OT environment. And the last is very important. Remember that skill gap. So one of the current situation underlying the underlying challenge faced by our industry, OT industry, is the skill gap, which the slowly it has tried to overcome with the years. However, you can see that the IT guy knows IT specific knowledge. They do not have any OT specific knowledge. Those who are working in OT environment, I'm talking about, because it requires a lot. It is a specific knowledge. It is a niche skill, right? And when it comes to OT guy, he knows OT, but they do not have any security in mind. So that's why this skill gap, it's that is also one of the challenge. That is where our webinar plays a major role here, because our main idea here is to bring people together, like how OT guy can take care of the OT security as well, and IT security or IT guy can come to OT security. So this webinar addresses that unique challenge of bringing what are the career options are available, and what are the skills that you need to develop to move to OT security. So now we'll move to compliance and standard. Don't get scared of this, because what I have shown is only 40-50% of the standards here. But what you need to understand, if you want to move to security, OT security domain, these global standards are important, right? Specifically 62443, and this is the 802. It is a guideline, it's not a standard, but 62443 is a standard, and 27001. This is being used in IT predominantly, but still some organization uses even in OT environment as well. And then INISA guidelines, which is published in Europe, and CPNI guidelines in UK. And there is a cybersecurity framework. Obviously, everyone knows about it. And see, these are some globally accepted, standards and rules and guidelines. And then when we work on this is one of the challenges, right? Because you don't know which standard to follow. Tomorrow, let's say you want to work in aviation industry, then they have certain rules and guidelines. But if you ask me, and even in healthcare industry, they have to use certain when it comes to securing the healthcare industry, even they have to use separate standards. But overall, if you ask me, you have to if you want to jump into the OT security, these are enough. For example, you have to understand 62443 first, and then 882, then cyber security framework, and 27001. Yeah, so these three are important, and NERCIP is, again, the sector specific. Whatever I have shown here, these are all specific to power industry. I will not go in depth of it, but this NERCIP, this is specifically for the North American region, North American Electric Reliability Council and Critical Infrastructure Protection. That is the full form of NERCIP. And IEC 62351, which talks about securing your power management systems for the power industry. Okay, and then these two are also. And BDEW white paper, it is from Germany. The reason why I'm telling is, I have included the sector specific, and also geographically it varies. In India we follow certain standards, but when you go to Middle East, you have to follow another standard. But overall, these standards are derived specific geographical locations. Basically, it has derived from ISA 62443 and NIST CSF and ISO 27000. These three are the major ones, where it has mapped to the different white papers and standards. And API standard from the American Petroleum Institute. And oil and gas, when you go to oil and gas, there is a institution, they have grouped the IOGP. They have their own security management systems. And then nuclear, if you want to work in nuclear facility, then you have to follow NRC regulatory guides. So these are only few. When it comes to marine industry, then we have American Bureau of Shipping and Lloyd Registrar. There are various, and DNV rules and guidelines. But luckily, what has happened is, if you want to move to OT security, please remember, understanding 62443 will be the key in future. Uh, why it is key? Because all these sectors, even in marine and even in nuclear, and nuclear industry or healthcare industry, slowly they started adopting this 62443. Not only that, I have talked about future of industrial control system, that is open, OPAS standard. So there also 62443 only they have adopted while developing. And when it comes to IoT network architecture, If you go and look at the IoT security architecture, again they have adopted 62443. Hence, it has become important that understanding 62443 will be the key standard to jump into the uh, OT security. Then NIST SP 882. If you are someone new to OT, strongly recommend that you follow this guideline, which clearly defines like what you need to understand, right? So that is where you have to start looking at this guidelines. I strongly recommend that. Now, since I have touched upon this 62443, I want to quickly, give you overview of 62443, what it is exactly in a simple terms, right? Now we have talked about industrial automation and control systems. So they use term called IACS in short. We talked about ICS. It is same, industrial automation and control system. It's a just terminology difference. And this 62443, earlier it was called as ISA 99 standards, because it was formed in way before 2000, and then slowly it has evolved over the years. They segregated into four tiers. One is general policies and procedures, system and components. Let us say, why it is important, because this is a horizontal standard applicable to many industry sector and applications, right? So I have already talked about marine industry, power industry, oil and gas, and even wind, renewable energy, everyone. It talks about the what are the security requirement for your products, security requirement for your solutions. Let us take one tier each at a time. And this general, talks about your basic terminology, concepts like access control, what it is, what is industrial automation, what is firewall, everything. And 1 dash 2, so we call it as 1 dash 1, 1 dash 2, 1 dash 3, 1 dash 4, and then comes the 2 dash 1. So this under this, let us say you want to have a patch management, for your OT environment, then you refer 2 dash 3, which talks about patch management in the ISCS environment. It gives the clear picture of how to, it will not give you like what to do, means how to do. It says that what to do, right? They have a flow of like once you receive the patch from the vendors, how to take care of it, right? And then let us say you understand that ISO 27000 ISMS, right? Information Security Management System. We talked about in IT industry. Similar way for the OT, this 2-1 talked about security program, that CSMS, Cyber Security Program Management Systems. So this is where this helps us a lot. And then let us say you are a service provider, you want to work for a service provider, and you there is a certain security requirement for on the organization level as well as on the product level, or you are providing some solution to the customer. And then this 2-4 talks about it, like it says that on what security level you have to cover, or what are the maturity levels that you have to comply it, right? So I'll not go in depth of the technical aspects of it. I just give you an overview of it. And then comes the system, right? So 3-2 is very important, because I have told you that in the best practices you have to conduct the risk assessment. So basically, you visited the plant as a consultant, for example. Tomorrow you go to plant and conduct the risk assessment as per 624. Then you will follow this 3-2 standard, which has a flow chart. You have to identify the threat, vulnerabilities, whatever I have explained earlier. So it is easy to understand basically. Then let us say you are a provider of DCS, or you are providing some systems, entire system architecture, where you have various components like PLCs, RTUs, SCADA, and all that. And customer says that okay, I have to be 62443 compliant for this entire architecture. Then you will apply 3-3 in that. It clearly says there are 7 foundational requirements, like what has to be the access control, how network should be segregated, and what are the how to meet these security levels for each of the foundational requirements. Then comes the component level. Yeah, for network switches, routers, and also you have one controller. I have explained about the intelligent devices, right? So previously in the previous slide. So there is a technical security requirement as well, as well for the IACS component. There also again the foundational requirements, 7 foundational requirements will be mapped to this. And 4-1 talks about your product security development life cycle. That means in software world we talk about software development life cycle or secure development life cycle, right? So whenever, because many a times we have seen embedded software which is not secure by design, right? So not secure by design in the sense security was not considered before. So because of these process, so they have to follow no other option, and there will be a certifying body who verifies this as well, that we are following this. So all these are will go a long way on this. Now comes the very important topic of today's discussion is risk management for OT system. So I'll explain with these two. This I have taken from again NIST. So yeah, hopefully we can continue, or do you need any 5 minutes break? As we know that risk, organization manage the risk every day to meet their business objectives. So these risks, may include maybe financial, or maybe some equipment failures, or even personal safety. For each level, uh, so these are all some names, and they have their own process for the risk associated with each, the business objectives, and they decide how to manage those risks based on the risk tolerance and business priorities, and depending on the internal and external constraints. So this management of risk, is conducted as an ongoing process. So as part of their normal operations, this we have seen. But with respect to OT systems, when it comes to risk management, we have seen that many times it's a safety operations they have taken care. When safety risk being taken care, personal safety also has been taken care. But when it comes to security, I think this is where we need to start developing the good risk management framework for the OT organizations. So as you can see that a risk management is employed throughout the organization using three level approach here: organization level, business process level, and the system level. And this risk management process will be carried out on each level basically, right? So because of their inter tier or intra tier, whatever you call, because of the the mission objectives of the organization. And the risk management framework means process, I mean to say, has four components like frame, assess, respond, and monitor. And these activities are interdependent and often occur simultaneously, right? For example, results of the monitoring, component will feed into framing again, right? As the yeah, and let us take one example. Try to explain what exactly it is. Let's say you are own a industrial plant that uses OT systems to manage manufacturing process. Okay, you need to manage the risk associated with using systems effectively. And as a first step, you as a risk management process, it is the frame the risk, which involves the understanding the context of your risk management, or risk of an OT system. What could go wrong in the manufacturing process, maybe which could lead to the production delays, or lost revenue, or even safety issues, right? So the next step is to assess your risk, like identifying the potential threat and vulnerability to your OT systems. And then, and these vulnerabilities could lead to catastrophic consequences. Then you have to respond to these risk which you have identified and assessed. That is where you have to keep all the measures, security measures like firewalls and intrusion detection systems and access controls, many such security measures that you have to respond to this risk. And as a last step, you have to monitor, continuously monitor the risk and adjust based on your organization objectives. And this in this could be maybe monitor for your OT cybersecurity threats and implementing additional security measures required or not. So these are some of the important risk management process that we have to keep in mind for the OT security. Now, in the key concept, we talked about so far about industrial control system, then threats, then we have gone through the case studies and what are the best practices, unique challenges, and also we understood the risk, how to mitigate those risks. And there is one more important terminology terms we used in OT security is incident response. And this digital forensic and incident response are the two common terms in cyber security basically. This was initially developed only for the IT, but however, we can take care of it for the, we can adopt to the OT as well, right? Because this each step, if A to F, requires some technical actions, which requires high skills to perform for the incident response. So traditionally, the incident response mainly focus on the technical aspects of the process and not on the procedure. You remember that, right? The issue is not a problem while dealing with the event in IT environment, because in most cases IT team used to handle it under the full IT team separately. However, this is not the same case for the OT systems. Why? Because there is no separate OT security team. Because whenever you go and approach any OT engineers or OT leader, then he will say, "Hey, our IT team will take care." But it involves, because OT involves many stakeholders, like you have operators, you have maintenance teams, you have engineers, and you have network engineers, etc. So they do have some analysis on their system, because, as I said earlier, the continuous operation will be the key for the business always. So as a result, what happened is a lack of clear procedure, and there is no lack of coordination and lack of clear definitions of your responsibilities and authority, and this can lead to failures when it comes to the real-time cyber incidents. That is where recently NIST, National Institute of Standard and Technology, has released one of the framework called as DFIR framework, Digital Forensic and Incident Response. So this picture, what I am sharing with you is this, because which is more relevant to the operational technology. So NIST is basically it's a go-to solution for any. I'm not recommending as such, but at least we can keep it for reference. So then this is easy to understand. So this diagram. So this is the scale of cybersecurity your program. Cybersecurity program always built into these five levels. The first two levels are on the architecture and passive defense, and these two levels include always the basic structure of your fundamental design considerations and security controls. It eliminates most of your low level and traditional cyber attacks. So in comparison to physical defense, and levels are like it looks like the walls and gates around your property. But you remember that only walls and gates are not enough. So to achieve security levels or satisfactory level of protection against sophisticated attacks, so we need some kind of defense, like active defense, intelligence, and offensive security, right? As part of active defense, where you will be monitoring, the assets, and you will be collecting all the threat intelligence reports, and then comes the incident response. So look at the this DFIR framework for operational technology has six steps. So one is routine. What it means. So basically, this phase, routine phase, includes any activities before the event occurs. Therefore, main activity under this routine is the asset identification and some data collection. And this while security operation centers, right, they will do the cyber monitoring always, and recording all the fundamental days and everything. But there is also a facility control center or control center where they monitor all these processes, and managing all the operation event log. So this is the routine job of the in the DFIR framework, but in the OT environment. Then comes the initial identification and reporting. For example, this phase starts when something comes up in the system. It can be operational alert or the malfunction observed in the facility control room. So it can be anomaly or an alert to the SOC basically. Then comes the technical event handling. The reason why I'm telling this is important is there are many false positives comes in the OT environment. We don't know, like operational errors, or it could be threat real cyber incidents. So it is very difficult to segregate this event handling. So that's why there is a separate team who are skillful handling such events, because they will have the strong background in the technical aspects of the OT environment to tackle these problems. And then cyber incident analysis and response. So unusual event, as I said earlier, in the event handling, some false positive. So this is where the expertise comes into picture. They will convert, the unusual events handling into the cyber incident if real cyber incident happens, and that decisions can be, accepted. So now comes the once we identify the cyber incident by the incident response team, then the digital forensic team will come and this phase end of cyber incident. Sometimes announcing the end of the incident is simply a management decision, even though not all the issues have been resolved, but still this announcement will make allow the facility to plan how to move forward and go back to the some form of routine again, right? So next, the incident response team will conclude some lesson learned from this incident, what has happened, to improve the security levels and their next time activities, and publish a final report on while closing all this analysis. And very important is post incident. Don't forget this, because the primary activity on this post incident is to back to a system operating under a supervised routine. And therefore this the security operation center and the control operation center need to increase the monitoring and focus on the system behavior for a well-defined period. And again, the routine will come again. And overall, this NIST DFIR framework, what I have explained, can be, it's a useful tool, for any organization looking for to manage cyber incidents to their OT system, because this was designed specifically for OT systems. And if you follow the structured way of approach to the incident response, organization can any organization can minimize the impact of any incidents and protect against the future incidents. And also, one important thing is maintain the safety, reliability and security of their OT systems. So always keep in mind the safety, reliability and availability. Yeah. Now comes the very important topic of our today's webinar. I think many of you are awaiting for this. So far, I have covered the basics of fundamentals of OT security, why it is important, and what are the key concepts and what are the challenges that we are facing. Also, I have touched upon the skill gap. So now to overcome that challenge, and what are the career opportunities lies ahead with us. As you can see, the market growth, the demand for OT security has been on the rise in recent years. From past 2 years, if you ask me, it is tremendously going, because of the many reasons, because government is pushing, and also there are many cyber attacks that happened in the recent past. So these are all the initiative that and also many security solution vendors providing many security solutions to the customer. So this has created a number of exciting career opportunities in this field, with a range of various job roles, which I will touch upon in the next slide. And the market growth for OT security is expected, the projected around 15.8% CAGR, that is compound annual growth rate, and reaching a market value of 32.4 billion by 2027. And this data I have collected from the some of my colleagues and some of the reports. But you can see the the what is the market growth and what is the opportunity, how much money being invested in this, right? So we have to keep this in mind. And this growth basically it is driven by the increasing in the focus on OT security by governments or organizations worldwide, as well as the growing need for the skilled professionals in the field. So we have to remember this. And in fact, there is an industry push also. Recent survey has found that the 47.7% feel that they need the OT security staff, because it is very difficult for the normal day-to-day operations. OT engineers will take care of the safety, and IT guys will take care of the IT security and even OT security. But until unless they understand the effectiveness of the OT systems, they cannot secure completely, right? So even though they can apply their security technologies, but still they need to understand the OT aspects of it. So this the talent gap is further shows that the shortage of cybersecurity professionals. There is a talent gap. You can see that 3.5 million cybersecurity professionals are required now, as of now. It means for the various sectors. I'll tell you, I'll explain what are the different job roles and responsibilities available in the market right now. And also, very interesting thing is, OT security is a niche skill, and definitely, if there is a niche skill, and definitely you will have the higher compensation compared to the same the package. If I want to tell that the industrial automation engineer who has some 10 years of experience will not earn the same as those who are in OT security. So there is a gap. But still, the OT security has a huge market. So we have to utilize it, and the market itself demands it, right? So we need skillful resources to handle day-to-day operations and for different job roles. So you can take your time to read out this. I'm not going to tell that, and because these are some general job roles available for the different companies. So if I want to tell that the OEMs, so I will go through this headlines so that you will understand where I can apply. What are the job roles are available in the market. So OEMs like original equipment manufacturer, example a company like Siemens, ABB, Honeywell, Yokogawa, Rockwell Automation. There are many Emerson. There are many companies as such companies, right? So these are responsible for designing and building OT device systems. We talked about DCS, PLCs, SCADA systems, and these companies responsible for designing those systems. And so and what are the job roles available under OEMs? Like OT security engineer, ICS security architect, and there is a firmware security developer, security compliance analyst, and product security analyst and manager. If I want to take the job description of these individuals, it will take again a long time. But I will just touch upon if you want to be in OT security for the OEMs, then you have to understand their products. When they develop, they have to keep the security by designing the mindset, and also you have to understand the communication protocols. Then these are all embedded device, and you have they will have develop some firmware, right? So you can apply for any of these jobs, and if it interests you, and based on your what you are working on, like OT system, whether you are in OT or IT, right? So then comes the OT security solution vendor, and these companies develop and provide cyber security solutions tailored to OT systems. So for example, the intrusion detection systems, or antivirus software, or firewalls, so and so, and Nozomi networks, and Clarity, Dragos, Thales. There are so many OT security solution vendors available in the market today, because every month I am seeing new companies being a new startup has been coming in the coming up in the market. So there is a huge potential, because there is a huge potential, I can say that. And consulting companies, what they do is they provide expert advice and guidance for the OT companies by providing the risk management services, compliance, industrial cyber security audit. You can become these different job roles. companies like Deloitte, EY, KPMG, PwC, different those where I'm working, and these companies provide these consulting services, right? And just to remind you that the consulting services has a big role to play in the coming years. As per the survey, the report says that there are two important companies who will survive in the market, that service companies and the implement solution implementers. So we have to keep that in mind. And this is the EPCs means engineering, procurement, and construction companies like Floor and KBR, Petrofac. These people buy industrial control system, and they create the OT environment. So they also need expertise from the OT security background. Like you can become cyber security manager or industrial network security engineer, SCADA security engineer. Many such job roles are available. Then comes the interesting thing is service supplier, because the service supplier provides managed security services like security operation services, vulnerability assessment, pen testing, and also the cloud services because of the digital transformation, IoT security, everything. And very one interesting thing is in the OT security domain, Microsoft is there from the beginning, but nowadays because of the digital transformation, Microsoft, Amazon, Accenture, TUV, Wipro, TCS, everyone has been coming into this field. So that's why there's a huge potential for this market. And finally, end users, the OT system being implemented there, like ExxonMobil, Shell, ADNOC, Saudi Aramco, Reliance Petrochemical, Adani groups. So there are many job opportunities available in the in this region as well, like end users. So various job roles. You can ask me like CISOs for OT. There is also there is also a plan going on by the government. They itself creating different job roles, like NIST also creating one, and also our community, and even in Indian community, what I have seen, what I have observed based on my experience, and also discussed with many of my colleagues, and also some government personnel, that saying that they are creating a specific job roles for OT security because they understood the importance of this. So this is the right time to jump into this, but obviously you need to put efforts, right? And you can see there are a lot of jobs available, depending on your interest and the background. You can jump into any of this. And this is a general overview. Again, I'm telling, this is a general overview of the diverse job roles available in the OT ICS security. But some job roles maybe across organization may overlap, like analyst. So analyst can be in the OEM as well as an end user, or it can be in EPCs as well, right? So that you need not bother. Now, what are the skills that required you to jump into transition from IT to OT security, or OT to IT security, OT security? So I have made the common methodology so that you can easily follow this. You first let me take an example of OT guys who are working as an industrial automation engineer who wants to jump into OT security. So you have to identify your transferable skills and then build a strong foundation in cybersecurity, because sometimes when you want to move to security, you have to understand the fundamental principle of cybersecurity and then gain hands-on experience. Because many times when I speak to people who are from IT background or OT background, they say that I don't have a hands-on experience. How will I do that? Luckily, fortunately, we have a lot of resources available online that you can learn. You know, so remember, if you are in OT security or IT security, continuous learning is the key, and also pursue relevant certifications. Yeah, you can go with the certification. I will, go one by one in depth of these things, right? First, let me take OT to OT security. So identify relevant competencies. For example, as an industrial automation engineer, you might be working with system architecture, network architecture, and as a commissioning engineer or automation engineer, you already know the communication protocols used in the OT domain, right? As I explained, previously, the Purdue model, what I have explained, this is a part of your day-to-day job. You just go through that, and maybe you are already working with those systems like distributed control system, safety system, the communication, how to how to communicate with the modbus, how to communicate with OPC and DNP and Profibus, and all these things you have to think in a security point of view. And some are, whenever you install software, you run with the id run tools, right? Many times many OEMs use this, and many security solution uses this. Why they use it? And this security controls, access controls, and individual user account has separate login and password, and separate groups, security groups, right? Like operator will have separate user group, maintenance engineer will have. Why do we need to do this? And these are part of OT security basically. So you have to understand all that and build a strong foundation in cybersecurity. You might know basically, what is network security. You have to understand what is cryptography, encryption, decryption, and what are the risk management and risk assessment, how to conduct the risk assessment. And nowadays luckily, we have everything online to learn this, and then gain hands-on experience about this. Create your own security architecture. You conduct your own risk assessment. To help you with that, there are many professionals, on LinkedIn. You connect with them and you share with. And even your day-to-day job, you discuss with the people who are already working with the networking domain. Now comes the, many times I always debated this. uh, Many people suggested that IT people will be, very difficult for them to move from IT to OT because they don't have OT background. But same, I always argue that the OT guys understand the OT environments. But if you look at the evolution of our OT security or OT, we adopted security technologies from IT, right? You have seen like firewall, where it has come from, and OSI model, where it has come from, right? So we have to understand that. Without, see, we have to go with the collaboration work here. We also need IT guys, we also need OT guys, and this is where I say that skill gap. So my main idea here is, even when I started my LinkedIn journey, so this was the point that my main idea is to bring many people into this domain. I know, because initially I also struggled to move from OT to OT security, and there are few people who have helped me. Then I understood. Nowadays, we have lot many resources available in the web. You can take care of that. And now, IT guys will not have any knowledge about OT, but it is not so difficult to understand without hands-on. Even still, you can have. I know people who are, moved from IT to OT security by learning themselves, right? And there are so many courses available, and you can create your own, virtual machines. You can run, a lot many systems available freely. So, if you are an IT engineer or IT guy, IT background, then you have to identify your relevant competencies. Like you might be working with the network security or programming or system administration, and you also know that IT communication protocols. Nowadays, industrial communication protocol also uses the the IT protocols. Like they adopted OSI protocol as well, and it will be easier for you to understand how it works and everything. The only challenge for you, it will be acquiring the OT specific knowledge. And for that, there are so many trainings are available. And NIST 882, if you are familiar with, and you follow some people on LinkedIn, that will be easier for you to understand what is happening in the industry. So you can do that. And then you how to get a hands-on experience about this. As I said, you can take off try hack me and the Udemy courses, or there is a platform called control things IO. So these things you can take care of. And again, I have explained about the certifications, GICSP and that. Anyways, I will take the questions in the end. Before that, I would like to excite to that we with collaborating with Infosec, we are launching a course on fundamentals of OT ICS security. These are the course content: introduction to OT security, and then understanding the key components. Don't think that these are the network architecture protocols, network segmentation, zoning. There are so many things are there. So you will I will make sure that you cover basics of fundamentals by this course. And also, what I have explained, the threats are, how to go and tackle it, and where to go about it, and how to conduct the risk assessment. and then what are the best practices and standards, how to create policies and procedures, and what are the security considerations and with respect to standards. So I will touch upon this 62443 NERC as well, and then overview of tools and technologies. Network traffic analysis tool Wireshark, with respect to OT system, how you can utilize it, and there are so many solutions available on the market. Apart from this, wherever possible, I will touch upon the practical aspects of it by giving some examples for each of the things. I know many courses are available on Udemy courses, but here the difference. What I would say is my experience. I know how much I have struggled, so that's why I frame this course content just to make sure that you for your next message, it will be for next your career job role. I'll make sure that you will get through it. How to approach it, even for how to prepare for your 62443 certifications, and wherever possible, I will give you a guidance on this. Yeah. So and this will be this course will be launched next month. So we will be starting this course from the month of May. Maybe last week of May. You can connect with InfosecTrain for the exact date. You can just go through their